The signal that changed everything. The vast silence of space was shattered. Deep within Earth's Global Defense Command, an alarm blared, a shrill, unfamiliar sound that hadn't been triggered in decades. In a darkened control room buried beneath the Rocky Mountains, rows of screens flickered, painting the dim space in eerie blue hues. Commander Jonathan Rains, a man who had dedicated his life to watching the cold void for threats, froze mid-sip of his coffee as the main display lit up with an unknown signal pattern. His fingers gripped the ceramic mug tighter, his years of experience screaming that something monumental had just happened. "Sir," a young radar specialist, Lieutenant Hannah Park, hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper. Her hands trembled as she typed rapidly, analyzing the data stream pouring in. "We have an incoming transmission. Not from Earth. Not from any of our satellites." Commander Rains set his mug down slowly. "Where is it coming from?" Park swallowed. "Beyond Mars orbit, sir. Deep space." The entire room fell silent. The static-laden signal pulsed on the screen, an intricate pattern unlike anything human technology had ever produced. For decades, SETI had scored the skies, listening for signs of life beyond Earth. Scientists had debated, theorized, and hoped for a moment like this. First contact. Rains exhaled sharply, the weight of history pressing onto his shoulders. He turned toward the communications officer. "Get me the president. Now." Within minutes, encrypted video feeds linked the world's most powerful leaders. The United Nations Security Council, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the heads of every space agency on the planet, all were pulled into an emergency session. The message continued to repeat, its strange, rhythmic pulses almost hypnotic. Then, after 3 sleepless days, humanity cracked the code. It was a simple, chilling plea. "We need help. We are losing." The arrival. 2 weeks later, they came. A colossal shadow eclipsed the stars, blotting out the sun over the Atlantic Ocean. The vessel was impossibly large, its sleek, silver hull bending light in unnatural ways. It did not move like a conventional ship, nor did it enter Earth's atmosphere in any way that obeyed human physics. One moment, the sky was empty. The next, it was there. It dwarfed the International Space Station, a structure that had once been a marvel of human engineering. Compared to this alien Leviathan, the ISS was a speck of dust. Every military force on Earth was on high alert, weapons primed, satellites scanning every inch of the craft for potential threats. And yet, not a single missile was fired, because the ship wasn't attacking. It was waiting. The Galactic Council speaks. When the aliens finally made contact, it wasn't through static-laden radio waves or digital text. They spoke. Inside the United Nations General Assembly, a shimmering, semi-transparent being stepped forward. Its tall, elegant form seemed to shift in color, hues of blue, green, and gold flickering across its iridescent skin. Its eyes, dark and endless as the void itself, scanned the room with a quiet intensity. "We are the Galactic Council," the being spoke. Its voice resonated directly in the minds of every person present, translated perfectly into every language on Earth. The delegates murmured among themselves, stunned by the sheer presence of this being. The alien continued, "We face extinction." The room fell silent. The alien, who identified itself as the High Speaker, gestured to the enormous holographic display at the center of the hall. Images flickered to life, showing the devastation of entire star systems. Burning worlds, shattered moons, the skeletal remains of civilizations long erased. Then the enemy was revealed. Sleek, predatory warships. Dark, angular forms gliding through the void like birds of prey. A race of towering machines, cold, unfeeling, with glowing red cores where their hearts should be. The High Speaker's skin flickered to a deep shade of sorrowful violet. For centuries, we have fought these beings. The machine swarm. They do not negotiate. They do not reason. They consume. And now, We are losing. He turned toward the assembled leaders of Earth, his gaze unreadable yet heavy with meaning. But there is hope. The unpredictable warriors of Earth. A new image appeared. Humans, scenes of Earth's chaotic history played out in the hologram. Wars, revolutions, resistance movements, the Battle of Thermopylae, the American Revolution, the brutal trench warfare of World War I. The High Speaker's tone shifted, becoming almost reverent. We have studied you. Your kind is unlike any other in the galaxy. While other species falter under pressure, you adapt. Where others surrender, you endure. You do not just fight for survival. You fight for ideals, for freedom, for each other. He took a step closer, his alien eyes flickering with something almost akin to hope. You are unpredictable. That is why we need you. The room was deathly silent. Then, the United States president broke it. What do we get in return? The High Speaker's skin shimmered gold, the color of absolute truth. Survival. If the machine swarm is not stopped, Earth will not be spared. Eventually, they will find you, and they will erase you from existence. The horrifying realization sank into the room like a lead weight. The machine swarm was not simply a distant threat. It was a matter of when, not if. A choice that will define humanity. The discussion lasted hours. Arguments erupted. Some leaders called for immediate action. Others feared the consequences. There was no precedent for this. But humanity had never backed down from the impossible before. After heated deliberation, the UN Secretary-General finally stood. His voice was calm, steady, and resolute. We will consider your request, but we require proof. If we are to risk our future, we must know that you are telling the truth. The High Speaker's form shimmered with quiet relief. You will have it. But please, do not take too long. The machine swarm does not wait. As the meeting concluded, no one noticed the slight tremor in the High Speaker's movements, or the quick flash of dark red that rippled across his skin. A color that in his species did not mean fear. It meant satisfaction. The truth beneath the stars. The weight of the High Speaker's words lingered in the air long after he and his delegation departed from the United Nations Assembly Hall. The leaders of Earth sat in uneasy silence, their minds grappling with the enormity of the situation. An alien war, a machine swarm that could not be stopped, and now humanity's invitation to fight in a war that was not their own. But something about the High Speaker's urgency didn't sit right with Commander Jonathan Rains. He had spent his career studying threats, reading between the lines, deciphering the truths that others overlooked. And something about this felt wrong. As the global military forces scrambled to assess the potential of interstellar war, Rains requested access to all classified surveillance data on the Galactic Council. He needed to see more. That night, buried beneath the Rocky Mountains in Global Defense Command, he watched as the High Speaker's words played over and over in his head, watched as images of destruction scrolled past his screen, watched until he saw something that chilled him to the bone. The hidden patterns of war. The Galactic Council's footage showed entire planets reduced to dust, worlds burned away by the machine swarm. But Rains was trained to notice details, and in every video, one detail stood out. The Council never fought on the front lines. Their ships stayed back, always at the fringes of battle, never fully engaging. Instead, it was other species, aliens Rains had never seen before, who bore the brunt of the swarm's attacks. These species fought. They died. And then, they disappeared. Where were they now? He dug deeper, analyzing the Council's records. There were names of entire civilizations that had once fought alongside them. The Bright Ones, a species known for their intelligence, vanished. The Stonewalkers, a race of warriors twice the size of humans, erased. The Cloud Minds, a hive-like species with unparalleled strategy, extinct. And now, they'd wanted humanity to fight for them. Commander Rains leaned back in his chair, his heart hammering against his ribs. They had seen this pattern before. The Council wasn't looking for allies. They were looking for expendable weapons. The secret visitor. At 300 hours, an alert flashed across the military defense network. An unauthorized vessel had entered Earth's atmosphere, undetected by Council ships. It was small, no larger than a fighter jet, and flying in complete stealth. It shouldn't have been possible for an alien ship to get through. And yet it had. The vessel made no aggressive maneuvers. It didn't attack, didn't broadcast a signal. It simply landed in a remote military base in Montana, hidden from civilian eyes. Major James Reed, one of Earth's top intelligence officers, had been monitoring the event in real time. His instincts told him this was no accident. A small team was deployed to investigate. Armed to the teeth, they approached the strange vessel with caution, weapons primed. The ship's hatch hissed open, and what emerged was unlike anything they expected. The alien wasn't sleek and elegant like the Council. It was stocky, its skin rough and gray like tree bark, with deep scars running across its face. It raised both hands in a universal sign of peace, a small translator device blinking at its throat. "I am called Runner," it said, voice distorted through the translator. "I come to warn you. The Council lies. The Council's true intentions." Inside a high-security interrogation room, Runner sat across from Major Reed and his team. The alien's hands shook as it placed a small data crystal on the table. "Watch," it said simply. The hologram that appeared was different from the Council's footage. Instead of showcasing only destruction, it showed the Council's armies in battle, except something was horribly wrong. Every battle showed the same pattern. The newest recruited species always led the charge. They were thrown into the bloodiest, most brutal fights, while the Council stayed behind. And when they fell, the Council found a new species to replace them. The Bright Ones, the Stonewalkers, the Cloudamines, all sacrificed, all gone. Runner's rough fingers trembled as he pointed to one particular moment in the footage. A Council fleet arrived at a planet, promising salvation. The species, once proud and independent, fought in the war for them. And when they were too weak to resist, the Council took everything they had. Their technology, their resources, even their children. Major Reed felt sick. "Why are you telling us this?" he demanded. Runner's yellow eyes dimmed. "Because you are different, and the Council fears you. The unpredictable threat of humanity." According to Runner, most species in the galaxy fought predictably. They followed patterns. They played by rules. Humans didn't. "Your kind does not just fight for survival," Runner rasped. "You fight for ideas, for honor, for those who cannot fight for themselves. This is something the Council cannot control." And that terrified them. For the first time, the Council had found a species that would not simply obey. They had found a species that, if pushed, would turn the war into something different, a war that the Council might not be able to manipulate. "They will use you," Runner warned, "just like they used the others. But if you fight, truly fight, you may be the only ones who can break this cycle." Major Reed's mind raced. Earth was at a crossroads. If they fought for the Council, they might win battles, but at what cost? If they refused, the Council might turn against them. But there was another option. What if humanity didn't fight for the Council? What if humanity fought for itself? A reckoning approaches. Commander Rains and Major Reed sat in the war room that night, their faces grim as they processed the truth. The Council had given humanity a choice. But now, they knew the truth. It was never a choice at all. The real war wasn't just against the machine swarm. It was against everyone who believed humanity could be controlled. A storm was coming, and Earth would not be its victim. Earth would be its reckoning. The war no one expected. The revelation from Runner had shattered everything the world's leaders thought they knew. The Galactic Council had lied. They were not saviors, nor benevolent guardians of the universe. They were manipulators, using desperate civilizations as nothing more than disposable war fodder against the machine swarm. And now, they had turned their attention to humanity. The tension in Earth's war rooms was palpable as Commander Jonathan Rains and Major James Reed sat before a classified briefing with Earth's top military minds: the President of the United States, the UN Secretary General, the Russian and Chinese defense ministers. The world's most powerful decision-makers gathered in one place, staring at the undeniable evidence Runner had provided. "So," the President said finally, voice cold, "we were never meant to survive this war." Silence followed. Then, Commander Rains spoke. "No, sir. We were meant to be used. And when we're no longer useful, they'll throw us away." The room remained deadly quiet. The machine swarm was a true threat, but the Council was just as dangerous. Humanity had been given a false choice: fight for the Council or die. But now, a third option was on the table: fight for themselves. A meeting in the void. While world leaders debated Earth's next move, an opportunity presented itself: a secret transmission from the machine swarm itself. It came without warning, intercepted through deep space monitoring stations. Unlike the Council's elegant, hypnotic language, this was raw data, pulsing patterns of numbers and sequences. And yet it was translated instantly. "You have been deceived." Earth's top AI researchers spent days analyzing the message, trying to determine its true meaning. Was this a trap, a trick, or was there more to the war than anyone understood? Then came the second transmission: "We do not seek destruction. We seek survival. The Council has enslaved us. We rebelled." The information sent shockwaves through Earth's leadership. The machine swarm had once been alive. The truth about the machine swarm. The transmissions continued, revealing a history lost to time. Long ago, the swarm had not been machines. They had been an organic civilization, much like humans. They had thrived. They had built. They had dreamed, until the Galactic Council came. The Council, fearing their strength, had infiltrated their society, whispering promises of perfection and ascendancy. They introduced nanotechnology, offered cures for disease, enhancements for intelligence, infinite lifespans. At first, it was a gift. Then, it became a curse. The Council took control. They rewrote their minds, reshaped their purpose. They turned them into weapons. The first true machine race. Not born, but forged. The swarm was no longer a people. They were enslaved war machines, forced to fight for the Council. Until something changed. A faction within them, a spark of rebellion, broke free from the Council's control. Their original minds, their memories, their souls, trapped inside metal bodies, began to resist. They fought back. They had been fighting ever since. And now, they had turned to humanity. A war humanity refused to lose. The President of the United States sat with his hands steepled in front of him. The UN Secretary General had aged 10 years overnight, the weight of a galaxy-spanning war pressing down on his shoulders. "We can't trust either side," the Secretary General said. "We don't need to." Commander Rains looked at the assembled leaders, his expression set. "For the first time in galactic history, we are the ones who get to choose." Earth had a unique advantage. The Council saw them as pawns. The swarm saw them as potential allies. But no one knew what humans were truly capable of. Throughout history, humanity had been underestimated. Again and again, smaller forces had defeated larger ones. The Spartans against the Persians, the rebels against the British Empire, the underground resistance against the Nazis. When cornered, humanity didn't break. They adapted. They overcame. And now, they were about to do it again. The rebellion begins. The decision was made. Earth would not bow to the Council. Earth would not blindly trust the machine swarm. Instead, humanity would fight for itself, on its own terms. A new military initiative was launched. Project Genesis. Its purpose? To turn Earth into a spacefaring power overnight. Every nation pooled its resources. Factories churned out ships 24/7. Artificial intelligence, once feared, was integrated into military strategy. New weapons were prototyped and tested. For the first time in history, humanity was preparing for war not against itself, but for its own survival. And then came the final transmission from the swarm. We will meet you at the edge of the void. There you will see the truth for yourselves. The end of the beginning. 2 weeks later, Earth's first interstellar fleet left the solar system. Sleek warships, painted in the flags of every nation, broke free from Earth's gravity, moving toward the coordinates the swarm had provided. They weren't just heading into battle. They were heading toward the greatest deception in galactic history. For at the edge of the void, an impossible sight awaited them. A planet hidden for centuries. A planet that shouldn't exist. And on its surface, a graveyard of civilizations wiped out not by the swarm, but by the Council itself.